Welcome to Ancient Wisdom Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into something I think, well, everyone who tries to live a good life bumps up against eventually. Why is it that sometimes when you try to do something genuinely kind, it just blows up in your face?
It's such a tough one, isn't it? This idea that kindness should always lead to good outcomes.
Yeah.
We're sort of taught that, unconditional generosity is the peak virtue.
Exactly.
But then you put it into practice and boom, you find yourself feeling used or completely drained or sometimes even, betrayed.
Yeah.
And that can really make you hesitate the next time, can't it?
Totally. You lead with your heart, you see someone suffering, you want to help, and suddenly your compassion feels like it was, naive, blind.
You pour all this energy in, hoping for something positive. Maybe that energy gets turned right back around against you.
It's frustrating and kind of heartbreaking, actually.
Well, the good news is this isn't some new modern problem. It's a really ancient human dilemma. And the wisdom we're exploring today tackles it head on.
Yeah.
It basically says, look, that initial feeling, that pity or impulse to help, that's not enough on its own.
It needs guidance.
Precisely. It needs to be guided by clear sight, by wisdom.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just potentially foolish pity.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. How do we combine that wisdom with action? How do we make sure our compassion is effective, not just impulsive? So we actually create good, positive merit instead of just setting ourselves up for trouble.
Exactly. It's about learning discernment. And to really illustrate this, we're going to unpack a really powerful, maybe even a bit startling ancient story. It involves a monk, a bird, a snake, and a hunter.
Okay.
And it provides a surprisingly clear framework, like a blueprint, for how to be genuinely helpful without becoming, a doormat or a victim.
That sounds incredibly relevant. Okay, let's start there. Why is wisdom so foundational? Why put that before the act of compassion?
Well, it really comes down to effectiveness, doesn't it? Knowing something is good or having a pure intention, that's great. But it's only half the picture.
Right. Thoughts alone don't change much.
Exactly. You need action. But, and this is the crucial bit, if that action is just a knee-jerk reaction, just pure impulse, it can actually do more harm than good. So the action has to be guided. Wisdom is the guide.
It sounds a bit like spiritual resource management. Like we only have so much energy, so much time, maybe even material resources.
That's a great way to put it.
So we need to be smart about where we direct it.
Yeah.
So how does this wisdom help us, filter? How do we know who's genuinely receptive to help?
Yeah, the tradition gives us a clear marker here. We're looking for potential. Genuine, effective help should ideally be directed towards someone who shows the potential for, let's say, spiritual growth, for real transformation.
Okay.
The goal is to find those who might become what's called a Bodhi relative.
A Bodhi relative? What does that mean exactly?
It means a true spiritual friend, someone who's on the path, or could be on the path, of awakening alongside you, someone who has the capacity, and maybe even the hidden desire, to cultivate goodness and understand things more deeply.
So it's not just someone we happen to like or feel sorry for. It's about their potential to join in creating something positive.
Yes, precisely. Because the ultimate aim of helping isn't just, patching up a problem temporarily. It's not just a handout. It's about enabling that person to eventually stand strong on their own 2 feet.
Okay.
And then ideally, the gratitude they feel from that transformation inspires them to turn around and help others, to love and support others. You're trying to kickstart a positive ripple effect.
Right, a cycle of goodness. But this is where it gets tricky, isn't it? Because if that's the goal, transformation, positive cycles, it implies something quite harsh.
Go on.
It implies that, you can't actually help everyone. Maybe you shouldn't even try to help everyone.
That's the uncomfortable truth, yes. This is where real discernment comes in, separating true, effective compassion from what we called foolish pity. We have to face this idea.
Oh, yeah.
It's often illustrated with the broken vase analogy.
Okay, tell me about the broken vase. It sounds stark. The idea is helping someone truly wicked, defined here as someone with a genuinely malicious heart, actively harmful, with zero intention of changing.
Yes, someone fundamentally resistant.
Helping them is like pouring water into a broken vase. Why is that considered worse than just, say, a waste of time? Isn't there always a chance for change? Isn't unconditional compassion about trying anyway?
That's the core objection, and it's a valid question to raise. The wisdom tradition argues back, though, quite robustly. It says, look, if your compassion is truly going to be unconditional, it also needs to be intelligent, needs to be effective.
Okay.
If you pour your precious resources, your time, your energy, your money, your emotional support, that's the water, into someone who is fundamentally broken in their intention, like that vase with a crack right through it.
Water just runs out.
It just drains away instantly. Nothing is held, nothing is achieved. But it's worse than useless, because sometimes by giving that person attention or resources, you might inadvertently empower them.
Ah, I see. So if I give resources or even just credibility to someone who's fundamentally exploitative,
You might actually be enabling them to cause more harm to others.
yeah,
You're not fixing the break in the vase. You might be giving the broken vase the means to cut someone else.
and that harm, it comes back somehow.
The principle of karma suggests yes. The negative consequences of the harm they cause, which you inadvertently enabled, will eventually ripple back and affect you, the helper. So, trying to help a truly malicious person without addressing the root of their malice, without some sign they want to transform their heart, it's argued that this does more harm than good in the bigger picture.
Wow. So the wisdom is saying, be discerning to protect your own ability to help effectively elsewhere. Don't drain your resources on truly hopeless causes because there are people who can benefit.
Exactly. Discernment becomes a form of self-protection, ensuring you remain a potent force for good where it can actually take root.
Okay, that idea is powerful and potentially controversial. But this parable of betrayal you mentioned, the monk, the bird, the snake, the hunter, this illustrates that danger of misplaced kindness perfectly, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a story that, frankly, strips away any overly romantic ideas about just being nice no matter what.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so the central figure is this hermit monk, deeply respected, known for his boundless compassion. One day, he comes across an old, deep well, and trapped inside are three beings:
Okay.
a bird, a venomous snake, and a human hunter.
An unlikely trio.
Very. And the monk, driven by pure pity, this immediate feeling of, I must help, he doesn't hesitate, he doesn't discriminate, he just gets them all out. He saves all three.
A beautiful impulse, right? Sees suffering, acts to end it. Symbol.
Pure intention, absolutely. And what happens next is really telling. The animals, the bird and the snake, despite their, potentially dangerous natures, are incredibly grateful. The story suggests animals, in their simplicity, often respond more directly to that kind of peaceful, compassionate energy.
And the hunter.
The hunter. He just gets up, dusts himself off, and walks away.
Yeah.
No thanks, no acknowledgement, just gone.
Okay.
So time passes. The grateful bird wants to repay the monk. It finds this stunning, precious gem. Turns out it belonged to the king's daughter, the princess, and brings it to the monk, dropping it at his feet as an offering.
Wow. Okay, so now the monk has this incredibly valuable thing.
Right, and his intention here is still utterly pure. He's a monk, a renunciant. A jewel means nothing to him personally, but he remembers the hunter he saved.
Ah.
And he thinks, this poor man, his life of hunting, of killing, it must be because he's poor. Poverty drives him to these evil ways.
A common assumption, perhaps, trying to find a reason for the behavior.
Exactly. So he comes up with this plan, a compassionate plan, he thinks. I'll give this jewel to the hunter. He can sell it, start a proper business, become prosperous, and then he'll give up his negative way of life, leave that bad karma behind.
It sounds so well-intentioned, an action born from wisdom and compassion, trying to facilitate transformation.
That's the key. It seems like wisdom and compassion. But here's the subtle flaw. His compassion lacked accurate discernment about the hunter's fundamental character.
He diagnosed the problem as external poverty, not internal.
Precisely. He assumed changing the external situation, giving wealth, would automatically fix the internal state. He didn't see the greed that was already deeply rooted in the man's heart.
Okay, so what happens when the hunter gets the jewel?
Well, meanwhile, the king is frantically searching for his daughter's lost jewel, offering a huge reward. The hunter gets this priceless gem from the monk, and instantly his inherent greed just takes over. Forget starting a business.
He sees a shortcut.
A massive shortcut to riches. He takes the jewel straight to the king. But then, of course, the king asks, how did a humble hunter like you come by the royal princess's jewel?
Panic stations.
Total panic, mixed with that overwhelming greed. He can't admit the monk gave it to him, maybe fearing implication, maybe just wanting all the glory and reward, so he lies. He commits the ultimate betrayal.
Oh no, what does he say?
He points the finger straight at the innocent monk, claims the monk stole the jewel, and that he, the heroic hunter, merely recovered it and is now returning it to the king.
Unbelievable. After the monk saved his life.
It's brutal. And the king, perhaps swayed by the hunter's story or just wanting the jewel back, believes him. He sends his guards. And the monk, the compassionate soul who started this whole chain of events by saving the hunter, is arrested, accused of theft, and thrown into a dungeon. All because of kindness that wasn't guided by clear sight.
That's devastating. So the monk is imprisoned. Well, what happens then? Does he defend himself?
This is where the monk's real spiritual practice, his true wisdom, finally comes to the forefront. When he's brought before the authorities, interrogated, accused, he remains completely silent.
Silent? Why? Wouldn't you scream the truth? Tell everyone what the hunter did, clear your name.
Our modern instinct is definitely self-defense, exposure, justification. But the monk operates from a different place. His silence is described as the highest form of non-retaliation.
Explain that. Why is silence better than revealing the truth here?
Because he understands karma. He knows that if he tells the truth, yes, he might clear his own name, but the hunter would then be exposed as a liar, a thief, a betrayer. He'd face severe punishment, maybe even death. Even though the hunter has caused him immense suffering, the monk chooses not to be the cause of further harm, further negative karma for the hunter. He accepts the wrongful accusation to prevent a worse outcome for his betrayer.
Wow. So he's still practicing compassion, even towards the one who wronged him so badly, protecting the hunter from the consequences of his own actions in a way.
And protecting his own inner peace. Getting drawn into accusation and counter-accusation would destroy his meditative calm. His silence preserves his spiritual integrity, even at great personal cost. It's an incredibly high standard.
It really is. Okay, so he's silent in prison. How does this resolve?
Now the animals step back in. The bird realizes the terrible situation its gift inadvertently caused. It flies to find the snake it was rescued with.
Right, the other grateful creature.
Exactly. The bird explains that their benefactor, the monk, is in prison because of the jewel and the hunter's lie. The snake, also bound by that debt of gratitude, understands immediately, and it acts with remarkable strategic cunning.
What does the snake do?
It slithers into the palace and bites the princess, the same princess whose jewel started all that.
Oh, that seems aggressive.
It seems aggressive, but it's a calculated move. The snake uses a potent but non-lethal venom, making the princess gravely ill. No doctor can cure her. The king is desperate.
Okay, creating a crisis.
Yes, and in his desperation, the king makes a royal proclamation. A full pardon for any crime, plus a huge reward for anyone who can cure his daughter. This creates the opening needed.
Clever. It sets the stage.
Then, the snake gives the bird a special antidote gem. The bird flies this antidote gem to the monk in prison.
Ah, the pieces are coming together.
The monk is brought from his cell before the dying princess. He simply takes the antidote gem, rubs it on the snakebite wound, and instantly she's healed. Perfectly well.
Proof positive.
Undeniable proof of his innocence, his connection to forces beyond the ordinary, his spiritual power. The king, seeing this miracle, immediately understands the truth, releases the monk, honors him, and presumably deals with the hunter accordingly, though the story focuses on the monk's vindication.
Not a story, the twists and turns.
And the lesson drawn from it in the tradition is quite blunt. Save an animal, and it will repay your kindness. Save a person, and they may repay you with enmity.
Ouch. That's quite a generalization in this story.
In this story, it holds true. The animals, acting from simple gratitude and perhaps a kind of natural wisdom, use discernment and strategy to save the monk. The human, tangled in greed and fear, turned kindness into hostility. It powerfully illustrates that when dealing with the complexities of human minds, simple pity isn't enough. Wisdom must be the filter.
That story is sobering. It really drives home the point about misjudging character. So the monk's real failure wasn't the act of saving, but the lack of foresight about the hunter. How does a tradition teach us to actually cultivate that kind of foresight, that high-level discernment? It seems almost superhuman.
It does seem that way, but it's presented as a skill to be developed. We look to the example of the Buddha himself. The texts often describe how, before undertaking any significant action like going to a certain place to teach or deciding whether to engage deeply with a potential student, the Buddha would pause.
Okay.
And he would use his awakened wisdom, his clear sight, to understand the situation fully. He could perceive the karmic conditions, the person's readiness, the likely outcome, before he committed his energy.
So he wasn't just reacting, he was acting based on deep understanding.
Exactly. This foresight prevented wasted effort, prevented causing unintended harm, prevented walking into situations like the monks. It's not magic. It's presented as the result of a purified and very aware mind, a cultivated practice of seeing clearly.
And a really practical way this foresight is applied is in choosing our environment, right? Our community. This brings us to that idea you mentioned earlier, the two kinds of relatives.
Yes, this is crucial for anyone trying to live a more intentional, maybe spiritual life. We don't exist in a vacuum. We're constantly influenced by the people around us. The tradition categorizes these influences into two broad groups.
Okay, what are they?
On one hand, you have Bodhi relatives. We touched on this. These are the people who are aligned with growth, with awakening. Bodhi. They're striving for positive change. They act as genuine supportive friends who uplift you, who challenge you constructively. They're like spiritual fuel.
People who help you move forward on the path.
Precisely. And then on the other side, you have the evil Mara relatives. Now, Mara in Buddhism represents illusion, temptation, negativity, the forces that obstruct awakening.
So these aren't literally evil family members necessarily.
Not necessarily, although they could be. It refers to anyone whose energy or actions consistently pull you down. People who specialize, consciously or unconsciously, in creating negativity, draining your energy, spreading gossip or malice, inflicting harm, basically dragging you and others away from peace and clarity. They're like spiritual anchors.
Right. They keep you stuck or pull you backward.
And the teaching here is quite direct.
Yeah.
The spiritual path isn't passive. You have to actively, intentionally choose to cultivate connections with Bodhi relatives and, just as importantly, create healthy distance from Mara relatives.
That sounds difficult in practice. We often feel obligated to engage with everyone.
It is difficult. But the wisdom says if you're serious about finding inner peace, about making progress, you simply cannot afford to be constantly swimming in negativity. Their energy, their mindset, it will eventually seep in and affect you. You have to protect your space.
It makes me think of that example you gave about Buddha Amitabha and his Pure Land. That wasn't just about his own enlightenment, was it? It was about community building.
Absolutely. Amitabha Buddha's vows were incredibly specific. He wasn't just aiming for personal Buddhahood. He vowed to create an entire environment, the Western Pure Land, that was specifically characterized by the presence of high-level Bodhisattvas, ultimate Bodhi relatives, and the complete absence of Mara relatives in negative states.
So no negativity allowed.
Essentially, yes. He focused intensely on gathering a vast assembly of capable, pure-hearted beings, all dedicated to the path. It was an act of supreme spiritual curation.
And the idea is that this collective positive energy is incredibly powerful.
Immensely powerful. That shared positive intention and momentum is what actually allowed him, according to the tradition, to manifest that pure land as a reality people could be born into. It underscores how vital our environment and associations are. It's not just about meditating alone in a room. It's about the company we keep, the energy we allow into our lives.
Okay, so taking that principle, the importance of community, of filtering influences, how do we apply that day to day? It sounds like we need to be quite proactive about creating boundaries.
Yes, proactive and discerning. It's about consciously creating a kind of protective buffer around our own peace and spiritual practice. We can use the temple analogy to make this clear.
All right, the temple analogy.
Imagine a spiritual center, a temple, dedicated to quiet contemplation and inner work. Now, if you fill that temple with lots of obvious valuables, maybe gold statues, big overflowing donation boxes right by the door, easily stealable precious objects.
You're basically putting out bait.
Exactly. You make it attractive to people whose intention isn't spiritual practice, but theft or exploitation. The very presence of those temptations acts as a magnet for greed and potentially malicious intent.
Okay, makes sense.
Now, contrast that with a temple environment that is deliberately kept simple, austere even. Just meditation cushions, maybe some texts, clean, empty spaces. Nothing obviously valuable, nothing easy to steal.
What happens then?
Well, someone coming with malicious intent, looking for an easy score, sees nothing there for them. There's no immediate payoff for their negativity. So they just pass by. They go elsewhere.
So the simplicity itself acts as a filter. It doesn't need guards at the door, necessarily.
Precisely. The purity and simplicity of the environment naturally repel those with impure motives. It protects the space and helps ensure that the people who remain are those genuinely interested in the practice itself, in the inner work, not an external gain.
That's a really insightful way to think about setting up our own lives, perhaps. Not flashing unnecessary valuables that might attract the wrong kind of attention.
It's a profound application of discernment in structuring our environment. And it's not about being unwelcoming or judging people harshly. It's about wisely safeguarding the energy field needed for growth, both for ourselves and for the community we're trying to build. This connects to another important teaching related to the Bodhisattva wonderful sound in the Lotus Sutra.
Okay, what can we learn from Bodhisattva Wonderful Sound about skillful interaction?
This Bodhisattva embodies wisdom in action, particularly in communication and relationships. The teaching suggests that Bodhisattva Wonderful Sound is discerning about where he goes and who he engages with deeply. He primarily goes where he is respected, where there's a basis for mutual understanding.
So it's not about forcing teachings on people who aren't ready or receptive.
Exactly. It implies a certain self-respect, but more importantly, an understanding of energy conservation. Why pour profound teachings or deep emotional energy into soil that's just not fertile?
Right. Which brings us back to that idea of relationships needing to be fruitful. What makes an interaction non-fruitful in this context? Something we might need to gently create distance from.
A healthy spiritual connection, like with a true Bodhi relative, needs to be reciprocal. It should feel like a two-way street. There needs to be mutual respect, listening as well as talking, a genuine exchange.
Okay.
If you find yourself consistently in dynamics that are fundamentally one-sided, maybe one person does all the talking, the other only listens, or maybe the conversation is always dominated by negativity, complaints, gossip, drama, with no space for positivity or growth.
Yeah, constant drain.
That's a non-fruitful interaction. It's an energy drain. And the wisdom here isn't about being rude or cutting people off abruptly, but about gently, wisely conserving your energy.
So it's okay to limit exposure, to save your deeper conversations for people who are actually capable of that mutual exchange.
It's more than okay. It's presented as wise. Your peace, your inner calm, that's your most valuable resource for practice and for helping others effectively. If you allow it to be constantly chipped away by draining interactions, you'll have nothing left. You'll burn out.
And then you can't be there when a real opportunity for skillful compassion arises.
Precisely. So this kind of social discernment is really about managing your energy effectively so you can show up fully when and where it matters most.
This principle of creating a pure, supportive environment, you're saying it extends even further than our social circles. It actually applies to our physical bodies and minds, too.
Yes, absolutely. The connection is seen as very direct. This brings us to a really practical aspect of the wisdom tradition. The emphasis on purity of diet, specifically, often advocating for a vegetarian diet. And the reasoning given goes beyond just ethics. It's deeply practical, tied to health, clarity, and even longevity.
Okay, I think many people are familiar with the ethical arguments, but what's the practical health connection being made here?
The traditional view is quite fascinating. It suggests that the very building blocks of our physical bodies influence our susceptibility to illness and our mental state. When we regularly consume meat, especially perhaps from animals raised under stressful conditions or with hormones and antibiotics.
Which is common in modern farming.
Very common. The idea is that we are literally constructing ourselves from this animal protein, incorporating the energy and, some traditions would say, the subtle information from that animal's life and death.
Okay. And how does that relate to illness, like viruses?
This is where it gets really interesting and resonates with some modern concerns. The wisdom suggests that a body built primarily from animal protein is structurally, or perhaps energetically, more similar to other animals. This makes it a more, let's say, hospitable environment for viruses and infectious diseases that originate in animals.
Ah, like we're providing a familiar home for those pathogens.
That's the concept. We're reducing our body's natural defense barrier, in a sense, because the cellular environment is more compatible with those animal origin invaders.
So conversely, a plant-based diet.
A diet based on plant protein builds cells that are fundamentally different in structure and energy. The idea is that this plant-based cellular structure is not a natural or easy fit for many of those animal origin viruses. It creates a less attractive, less suitable host environment.
Offering a kind of inherent passive resistance.
Exactly. A natural defense barrier built right into your physical makeup. It's about making your body fundamentally less welcoming to certain types of disease.
And this physical cleanliness, it's linked to mental states, too.
Very strongly linked. The tradition consistently observes that individuals who maintain a pure, often vegetarian diet tend to experience calmer mental states. Less anger, fewer intense cravings or overwhelming desires, a generally more peaceful disposition.
Less agitation.
Less agitation, and that mental calmness is seen as a key factor in health and longevity. A mind that isn't constantly churning with stress, anger, or craving puts less strain on the physical body.
Which naturally leads to fewer stress-related illnesses.
right, and supports a longer, healthier life. But again, the purpose of that longevity isn't just sticking around for more years.
What is the purpose then?
The purpose is to have more time, more vitality, more clarity to do meaningful, beneficial work in the world. The quality of the life matters more than just the quantity. A shorter life lived with great purpose and goodness is considered far more valuable than a very long life spent in idleness, confusion, or causing harm. Longevity is a resource for contribution.
Okay, that makes sense. So clean body through pure food supports a calm mind and purposeful life. How do we actively clean the mind itself, according to this wisdom?
Well, the method is beautifully simple yet profound. We use the Dharma as soap for the mind.
Dharma as soap. Explain that.
Think of your mind like a room. Every day, information and influences are coming into that room through your senses, what you read, what you watch, what you listen to, the conversations you have. Now, if you constantly fill that room with, let's say, the mental equivalent of dirt and grime, relentless negative news cycles, celebrity gossip, violent entertainment, fearful speculation, endless social media scrolling.
The room gets pretty messy, heavy, anxious.
Exactly. Your mind becomes cluttered, agitated, heavy, maybe fearful or angry. It reflects what you're putting into it.
So the soap is changing the input.
Precisely. The purification method is to consciously, deliberately choose to fill your mental space with the Dharma. This means engaging with the teachings of awakened beings, reading sutras, listening to Dharma talks, reflecting on stories of wisdom and compassion, maybe chanting or meditating on positive qualities.
You're actively replacing the negative input with positive, constructive input.
Yes. And the beauty is, it's not about forcefully scrubbing away the bad thoughts. It's more like letting the light of the Dharma gently dissolve the darkness. As you fill the mind with wisdom and peace, the negative habits, the anxieties, the anger, they naturally start to lose their grip. They get washed away gently and gradually.
Like turning on a light in a dark room.
That's a perfect analogy. And this internal cleaning has an external effect too. It comes back to that idea of environment.
How so?
A clean, calm, positive mind naturally starts to attract corresponding relationships and situations. Good people, genuine Bodhi relatives, are often drawn to that peaceful energy. You start creating a more positive external environment because your internal environment has shifted.
While a troubled, chaotic mind tends to attract more drama.
It often seems to work that way, doesn't it? Like
Yeah.
attracts like. So managing our mental input is just as crucial as managing our diet or our social circle. It's all part of cultivating that discerning, wise, and compassionate way of being.
Okay, as we start to wrap up this deep dive, let's connect all these threads back to that ultimate spiritual goal we touched on, the Pure Land. We've talked about it not just being some afterlife destination, but something achievable here and now.
Yes, that's a really key understanding. While the idea of a physical Pure Land exists, the deeper meaning is often pointed towards a state of being, a state of mind that we can cultivate and embody in this very life.
And the path to that state involves those three core qualities you mentioned, embodied by Amitabha Buddha.
Exactly. It boils down to cultivating.
Yeah.
First, a clean body, which we've linked to pure living, mindful eating, respecting our physical vessel.
Okay.
Second, a clean mind, achieved through that continuous washing with Dharma, replacing negativity with wisdom and peace.
Got it.
And third, the culmination is break wisdom. This is that clear seeing, that accurate discernment we've been discussing all along.
So bright wisdom isn't just intellectual knowledge. It's seeing things truly, without the distortion of our own greed, anger, or ignorance.
Precisely. It's seeing reality as it is, seeing the nature of situations, the character of people accurately. Remember the monk and the hunter? If the monk had possessed fully developed bright wisdom.
He would have seen the hunter's greedy heart before giving him the jewel. He wouldn't have made that mistake.
Exactly. He would have understood the likely outcome and perhaps found a different, wiser way to help, or recognized that direct help of that kind wasn't appropriate. Bright wisdom is the ultimate preventative medicine for suffering caused by misjudgment. It's the ultimate form of self-protection because it guides action correctly from the start.
So, therefore, the journey to the Pure Land, or the way to meet or embody the qualities of Amitabha Buddha, it's really about this internal cultivation.
That's the profound insight. When your body is pure, your mind is clean and filled with Dharma, and your wisdom is bright and accurate. In that state, you are experiencing the Pure Land. You are embodying those awakened qualities. You've achieved that state of effective, discerning compassion.
You can act in the world from a place of strength and clarity.
Yes. You've learned to protect your peace, not selfishly, but so you have the resilience and insight to genuinely be of service without getting entangled in unnecessary suffering, without burning out, without being constantly knocked off balance by betrayal or negativity.
So the whole path really starts with that fundamental choice we identified at the beginning.
Discernment before action.
Yeah.
It's about taking that crucial pause, looking clearly, and then acting from a place of wisdom, not just blind impulse or pity. It means tending to your own inner state, first filling your own cup with goodness, clarity, and peace, so that what overflows to others is genuinely helpful and sustainable.
That's a powerful summary. The core lesson seems to be that true compassion isn't weak or naive. It has to be strong, clear-sighted, protected by wisdom. Otherwise, we risk not only our own well-being, but potentially even enabling harm. Remembering that difference between foolish pity and effective, discerning compassion feels key.
It's absolutely central. Avoiding suffering for ourselves and avoiding empowering malice in others. These are the outcomes of compassionate action guided by wisdom.
And thinking back to the monk's story, even when he did make the mistake, even when he faced that terrible betrayal, his deepest spiritual practice arguably showed up in his response.
His silence.
His non-retaliation, choosing not to expose the hunter, even to save himself. His ultimate defense wasn't fighting back externally, but preserving his internal state.
Which leaves us with perhaps a challenging thought to reflect on. When you face difficulties in your own life, maybe injustice, maybe betrayal, maybe just the chaos of the world, consider this. Is the highest form of strength, the most effective self-defense, actually found in protecting your inner peace? In choosing non-harm, maybe even silence, over the instinct to fight back, to expose, to vindicate yourself externally?
Is maintaining that internal equilibrium, even when wronged, the most profound act of wisdom?
That might be where the real deep dive truly begins for each of us.